Wow. This is a really interesting one. The sources you gave me on art fraud have me thinking about all those masterpieces and all those galleries, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all that deception lurking behind the scenes, like you said, forgeries, stolen art,
Right.
collectors getting scammed. It's
More common.
I had no idea. It was so common.
And you think, yeah.
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 So today we're going to equip everyone listening with the knowledge to navigate all this, this tricky terrain.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to uncover how they do it, the red flags to watch out for, and most importantly, how to protect yourself from becoming a victim.
Absolutely.
Let's see, we've got excerpts from pasted text, which seems to be an article jam-packed with info.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, let's start with the scale of this problem. It seems huge.
It really is a global problem.
Yeah.
It's not just shady backroom deals anymore. This is a multi-billion-dollar market.
Right.
So the schemes are getting very sophisticated.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like something out of a spy thriller.
It's a much bigger issue than many people realize.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's just the sheer volume of money that's flowing through the art market.
Makes sense.
Makes it a prime target.
Yeah.
And the methods of deception are as varied as the art itself. Think of it like a rogues gallery of schemes.
I like that.
Yeah, we got forgeries, we got misattributions. That's where a work is falsely attributed to a certain artist, stolen art resurfacing with a fake history.
Oh, wow.
Even art insurance fraud. So many.
Okay, so it's not just fake paintings.
Right.
Like I was thinking before, it's like a whole
Ecosystem.
a whole ecosystem of deceit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's unpack this, starting with forgery. That seems to be the most prevalent.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me that someone could create a piece so convincing that it could fool, like, the experts. You know what I mean?
Mm.
How do they even begin to do that?
Forgers are incredibly meticulous.
Okay.
They don't just copy a painting. They delve into the entire artist's life. Their techniques, their choice of materials, even how their style evolved over time. Imagine trying to forge a signature. It's not just about the visual appearance.
Yeah.
You need to understand the pressure applied, the way the ink flowed from their pen,
Oh, wow.
their unique gestures. It's an incredible level of detail.
So they're like becoming the artists themselves. It's almost like method acting
Exactly.
to forge a painting.
Exactly, yeah. There was this case a while back where a forger tracked down the exact pigments an artist used by analyzing these historical records.
Oh, wow.
They even visited the locations where the artist painted.
Really?
Yeah, and then they recreated the conditions of the artist's studio, like the humidity and temperature. It was insane, the dedication.
That's incredible. It sounds like they're almost obsessed with getting every detail right.
Absolutely. And with technology evolving, it's a constant arms race.
Makes sense.
Forgers are using advanced tools to create these increasingly convincing fakes, while experts are using even more sophisticated technology to detect them.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating dance.
It makes you wonder if we'll ever reach a point where technology can, like, perfectly replicate any artwork. Would we even be able to tell the difference?
That's a question being debated right now in the art world.
Really?
But even with advancements in technology, there's one crucial element that can't be replicated: provenance.
Right, provenance.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier, and I got to admit, I always thought it was just a fancy word for, like, the artwork's history. But it sounds like it's way more than that.
Yeah. It's essentially the artwork's fingerprint.
Mm.
Its unique journey through time. Provenance documents everything: ownership history, exhibitions, restorations,
Right.
you name it.
It's like a passport,
Yeah.
but for art
Yeah.
instead of a person,
Exactly.
tracing its lineage and authenticity.
Yes.
So how exactly does provenance affect the value of a piece? I'm assuming a painting with a documented history is worth more than one with, like, a shady past or something.
Absolutely. Provenance is tied to value.
Okay.
So let's say you have two seemingly identical paintings. One has a documented history.
Okay.
It's been in prestigious exhibitions, belonged to renowned collectors.
Right.
The other one has gaps in its ownership history or questionable documentation.
Yeah.
Which one do you think would be more valuable?
I'm guessing the one with the clear provenance would be worth significantly more, even if the paintings themselves are identical. It's like buying a house. You want to know its history.
Right.
Any renovations,
Yeah, exactly.
any issues it's had. You wouldn't buy a house without knowing its history, right?
Exactly. It's the same with art. Provenance provides that vital context,
Okay.
that assurance of authenticity.
Yeah.
And just like paintings can be forged, so can provenance.
Really?
Yes.
So how can we protect ourselves from falling victim to fraudulent provenance? It seems like such a complex web of information.
It's all about verification and working with reputable sources.
Okay.
So if a painting suddenly appears on the market with documents linking it to, say, a famous museum, you need to verify those documents, like
Okay.
meticulously. Are there any inconsistencies?
Can you verify the records through independent sources?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that.
So even if the paperwork looks legit,
Yes.
there's always a chance it could be completely made up.
Absolutely.
Oh man, it feels like you need to be like a detective
Yeah.
to navigate this world.
It does require a certain level of scrutiny,
Okay.
but there are experts and resources available to help.
Okay.
And speaking of red flags, let's move on to some of the warning signs you should be aware of when buying art.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about those red flags.
Mm-hmm.
The pasted text article highlighted a few,
Yeah.
and some are surprisingly simple,
Mm-hmm.
like an unrealistically low price for what's supposed to be a really valuable piece.
Right.
I mean, if a deal sounds too good to be true.
It probably is.
Yeah, it probably is, right?
Yeah. One of the oldest tricks in the book, but it still works.
Wow.
A genuine seller who knows the value of their artwork,
Yeah,
they're not going to practically give it away.
right.
Another big red flag is a seller who's evasive.
Or hesitant to answer questions about the piece's history. So if they're reluctant to provide details about the provenance, or get the work independently authenticated,
Oh, right.
that's a huge warning sign.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If they're legit, they should be open and transparent, even eager to share all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of authentication, it's not just for millionaires, is it?
Right.
I always assumed getting an expert appraisal was something only like high-end collectors could afford.
Yeah, that's a common misconception.
Okay.
There are options for every budget.
Oh, good.
It's like getting a second opinion from a specialist in the medical field.
Right.
You wouldn't hesitate to seek expert advice for your health.
True.
And the same principle applies to protecting your art investment.
So are there like different levels of authentication?
Yeah.
Like a basic check versus a more in-depth analysis?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The level of scrutiny depends on the piece and the situation. Sometimes a visual inspection by a qualified expert is sufficient.
Okay.
Other times, more sophisticated scientific techniques might be required,
Oh, wow.
like pigment analysis or canvas dating.
It's amazing how much science is playing like a crucial role in the art world these days.
It really is.
So we've talked about forgeries, provenance,
Mm-hmm.
but what about those other types of art fraud that the article mentioned?
Right.
Stolen art resales sound like something straight out of a Hollywood heist movie.
It can be quite dramatic.
Yeah.
Imagine a masterpiece stolen from a museum,
Yeah, okay.
then resurfacing years later in a private collection.
Wow.
It happens more often than you might think.
Really?
Stolen art often ends up on the black market,
Right.
where it's sold with forged documents to disguise its origins.
That sounds incredibly difficult to track down.
Hmm.
It's like trying to follow a trail of breadcrumbs that someone intentionally scattered to mislead you.
Exactly. It's a complex web of deceit,
Yeah.
but authorities are working hard to combat it.
Okay.
There are specialized law enforcement agencies,
Okay.
art recovery specialists, and international databases
Wow.
dedicated to tracking stolen art.
So they're like art detectives.
Yeah, basically.
That's so cool.
Sometimes a piece might resurface at auction,
Okay.
or a sharp-eyed expert might recognize it in a private collection.
It makes you wonder how many stolen masterpieces are out there just waiting to be rediscovered.
Right.
Yeah. The article also mentioned fake online auction listings,
Yes.
which seems particularly insidious in our digital age.
It's a growing problem.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Scammers create phony listings for high-value art,
Wow.
often using professional-looking websites or social media platforms to lure unsuspecting buyers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So someone might think they're bidding on like a rare Picasso,
Right.
but it's all fake.
All a mirage, yeah.
That feels extra risky because online transactions offer that degree of anonymity.
Exactly.
Right.
Some online platforms can provide a shield for scammers.
Yeah.
They might use stolen images or create these elaborate backstories to make their listings seem legitimate.
And once the buyer has wired the money,
Yeah, the artwork never materializes
Right,
and
yeah.
the scammer disappears.
it's just a reminder that vigilance is key in any online transaction, especially when dealing with high-value items like art.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And speaking of being lured in by promises of riches, the article also touched on art investment fraud.
Yes.
That seems like a particularly tempting trap for people hoping to, like, cash in on the art market boom.
Absolutely. These schemes often prey on people's desire to make a quick profit.
Oh, wow.
They use misleading information or high-pressure tactics to convince them to invest in these questionable art funds or overpriced pieces. They might make promises of guaranteed returns or exclusive access to rare collections,
Right.
all designed to create that sense of urgency and exclusivity.
It's like those get-rich-quick schemes you see advertised online, but with an added layer of sophistication because it involves the art world. I can see how someone who's not familiar with the market could easily be swayed
Absolutely.
by the allure of big returns.
Yep. It's all about due diligence.
Yep.
Just like with any investment.
Right.
Don't let flashy presentations or promises of easy money cloud your judgment.
Yeah.
Research the fund managers, scrutinize the track records,
Okay.
get independent advice before committing any funds.
It sounds like a healthy dose of skepticism is crucial in the art world, especially when it comes to investments.
Absolutely.
We've covered a lot of ground so far. Forgery, stolen art,
Yeah.
fake auctions, investment scams.
It's quite a list.
It is. It's quite a list.
Yeah.
Is there anything else lurking in the shadows of the art market that we should be aware of?
We can't forget about print and lithograph fraud,
Right.
which is often overlooked. People assume that prints are less susceptible to fraud because they're multiples,
Okay.
but that's not always the case.
That's an interesting point. I always thought prints were a more accessible way to own a piece of art, so I never even thought about the potential for fraud.
Right.
Can you give me an example of how that might work?
Sure. Imagine a gallery selling limited edition prints as though they were exclusive or one of a kind,
Okay.
when in reality they're mass-produced
Oh, wow.
and worth far less.
Wow.
They might create artificial scarcity by claiming a print run is smaller than it actually is.
Okay.
Or they might forge the artist's signature to increase its perceived value.
So it's all about manipulating perception
Right.
and playing on the exclusivity factor
Exactly.
to drive up the price.
Yes.
It sounds like buyers need to be particularly cautious when dealing with prints, especially online,
Yeah.
where verifying authenticity can be more challenging.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Always do your research. Verify the edition size.
Okay.
Check for the artist's authentication marks.
Okay.
And compare prices from reputable sources.
Got it.
Don't be afraid to ask questions and walk away if something feels off.
It seems like the recurring theme here is knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
The more informed we are,
Yeah.
the better equipped we are to navigate the complexities of the art world and avoid all these pitfalls.
Exactly.
But even with all the precautions in the world, I imagine there are still instances where people fall victim to these schemes.
Right.
What happens then?
Oh.
What are the legal ramifications for the involved in art fraud?
The legal landscape is quite complex,
Okay.
but the consequences can be severe.
Okay.
Talk about criminal charges, hefty fines,
Wow.
even imprisonment for those who engage in art fraud.
Wow, so we talked about the consequences for the forgers and scammers, but
Right.
what about the victims?
Yeah.
What recourse do they have if they've been tricked?
Well, it can be a long and challenging road to recovery.
I bet.
Yeah, victims might find themselves entangled in legal battles,
Right.
trying to reclaim stolen artwork or recoup financial losses.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There are organizations and lawyers who specialize in art recovery and litigation, but it's a complex process.
Yeah.
It often involves international jurisdictions and intricate legal frameworks.
It's a reminder that art fraud is a serious crime
Mm-hmm.
with consequences that reach really far, not just for the people who did it,
Right.
but for the victims, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even just about money. It's about the loss of cultural heritage and the erosion of trust in the art market
Absolutely.
and the emotional toll on the people who have been deceived.
You've hit on a crucial point. Art fraud undermines the integrity of the entire art ecosystem.
Wow.
Yeah, it erodes confidence, creates uncertainty,
Yeah.
makes it harder for everyone to appreciate and engage with art.
Amidst all this talk of deception and fraud, I almost forgot about another angle mentioned in that pasted text article, art insurance fraud.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's a whole other layer.
It is.
Isn't it?
Yeah, art insurance fraud involves deliberately damaging or losing a piece to collect a payout.
Right.
It might seem lucrative, but it's still a crime
Of
with
course.
serious consequences.
It's almost like they're treating art as like a disposable commodity, a means to an end rather than appreciating its intrinsic value.
Yeah, it's a cynical view.
Yeah.
For sure, and it highlights the importance of ethical behavior in the art world.
Right.
Whether you're a buyer, a seller, or a collector, responsibility and integrity are paramount.
Well, this deep dive has been a real eye-opener. The world of art is not all glamorous galleries and prestigious auctions.
Right.
There's this whole dark underbelly of deception and intrigue.
Lurking beneath the surface.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating world, but you have to be cautious
Right.
and have a discerning eye.
Yeah,
Remember, knowledge is your most powerful tool.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You gave us a crash course in art fraud,
Yeah.
teaching us how to spot red flags and understand the tactics they use,
Mm-hmm.
and most importantly, how to protect ourselves
Exactly.
from becoming victims.
Remember thorough research,
Yes.
working with reputable sources, and obtaining professional appraisals are all key
Right.
to making good decisions
Yeah.
and mitigating risk.
And if something feels off,
Yeah.
trust your gut.
Just your instincts.
Yeah. Don't hesitate to ask questions.
Mm,
Dig deeper. Walk away
absolutely.
if it doesn't feel right. It's
Exactly.
like that old saying, buyer beware.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's more like, art enthusiast, be informed.
That's a good one.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We need to be proactive in protecting ourselves and the integrity of the art world as a whole.
Absolutely.
With technology advancing so rapidly, how do you think art authentication will change in the future?
That's a great question.
What new challenges and opportunities might emerge?
That's a topic worthy of its own deep dive.
Yeah, it is.
But I'll leave you with this thought.
Okay.
As technology evolves, so will the methods of both creating and detecting forgeries.
Right.
The future of art authentication will likely involve a combination of advanced scientific techniques,
Wow.
artificial intelligence, and expert human analysis.
That's a lot to keep track of.
It's a fascinating field to keep an eye on.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of art fraud.
Okay.
Remember, the pursuit of art should be a journey of joy and discovery, not deception and regret.
Absolutely.
Stay informed, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay passionate about art.